Hey guys, my name is Jamie and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Crimson Education. Today, we're on Ed Talks with one of our rockstar alumni, Nicole. Nicole's been on an amazing adventure from all these different schools, getting to Columbia University where she did applied math and economics, which is actually a personal favorite major of mine. After that, she took her skills to a variety of venture capital firms, including working at Go Ahead Ventures, and most recently has been at Prequel, at a really exciting business which we're going to learn all about shortly. Nicole, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Jamie.
Amazing. So to get us started, do you want us to let's rewind to high school. I'd love to hear a bit about what you were like in high school. You know, when you were 13, 14, were you a super motivated student? Did this come to you later in life? What was that journey like for you, and what was your mindset like throughout those crucial years?
So I've always been super motivated. First, because I loved getting A's and golden stars and all of that. My parents never cared about this. They only cared that I passed the grade. So it was only me. When I was 13, 14, I was really focused on my figure skating training. But at the same time, I was always doing a lot of things in school, very involved in sports, and obviously very, very focused in being a good student. But back then, it was much easier, I would say.
And how did you first get inspired to apply for the US universities?
This is an interesting question, actually. I think I was 12 or 13, and I had two really close friends of mine going to a summer camp. And I was like, Mom, Dad, can I go? They said no. So then I put my friends' parents to speak to my parents and try and convince them and all of that. I made a PowerPoint with all the strategies and all of that, and they ended up letting me go. And I was so fascinated with the American school education, all of that, not having to decide things beforehand, that I really wanted to do high school. Again, my parents said no. I didn't even go to international school. So I decided that I was going to go to apply to college. And if I got accepted into a really good college, they wouldn't have an argument that would stop me from going abroad.
Wow, I love it. And by the way, that story of kind of pitching your parents to let you go, it reminds me of almost like a VC pitching their fellow partners to deal. So I love the hustle. Great to see it. Very exciting. And then I guess, tell me a bit about your first impressions of Columbia. So you went through this process, you get into these schools, what was that like first setting foot on campus? And what was freshman year like for you?
So my real first impression, I remember I went to this literature humanities class. It was my first class. It was a Tuesday. And then I go into class. My professor, Nicholas James, amazing. He's like, well, I wanted to read Homer in Greek. So I learned ancient Greek. But I also wanted to read Dostoevsky in Russian, so I learned Russian. And then I come out of class, I call my mom, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know such people existed. I'm in heaven. Because I'm very passionate about literature, humanities. I did do applied math. I am in the more STEM side of things, but I'm really passionate about arts and humanities and all of that. So I was flabbergasted.
I guess Columbia was an amazing fit then with the core curriculum. And it's really cool that, in the US you can kind of navigate both, because in the UK, it's such a narrow focus in terms of only one major. So I guess give us a bit of a highlight then. What was your favorite STEM class and what was your favorite humanities literature class? Who taught it? Why did you love it? Give us some background on that.
I think my favorite STEM class was number theory and cryptography. And probably because it was one of the hardest classes I've taken. In terms of literally math and algorithms and all of that you do by hand. When you see things that are encrypted, you don't know how they work, but you actually do the modular arithmetic and all of that. And it's really, really interesting. And it fascinated me that I was able to encode so many things on the mathematical level. It was amazing. And I think that my favorite class in the realm of humanities was probably literature humanities because I read so many different books and we got to discuss. We even read the Bible and got to discuss, like, as a class, the sociological side of things and the roles it plays nowadays. It was amazing, amazing, honestly.
You finished Columbia pretty recently. What's the game plan from here? You've already worked in some amazing venture fund, technology businesses. Where to from here? What's next for Nicole?
So basically, right now, I cannot disclose what I'm gonna do next, but I did spend some time working in a really small, hyper growth, early stage startup. I learned everything on sales, and that's actually a really useful skill, I'd say. But I cannot disclose my next steps just yet.
Ooh,
So,
we'll, you can keep everyone guessing, and we'll check back in later when it becomes public.
yes,
Exciting.
yes, yes.
Maybe it could be an exciting stealth startup or something. Alrighty, that's beautiful. So now I guess rewinding back to the high school adventure, for many students listening to this, they haven't yet conquered their Ivy League dreams, and they look at your story as really one of great inspiration. In terms of your own experience, what are some pieces of wisdom you can impart to a high school student, maybe a 13, 14, 15-year-old Nicole back in the day, for how they should tackle this process? Is it worth it? And any wisdom you would give them?
So we can only connect the dots looking backwards, and obviously, I think it is worth it. But my process was quite interesting, I'd say. So I decided to apply, like, probably August or September of my senior year. I had no SATs, no ACTs. It was almost December. I had no personal statement or essays. So I'd say that you should be as good of a student as you can be and do as many activities and extracurriculars and sports and all of that. Because at the end of the day, it is a holistic application. So if you have all of this, but I mean, organically, you can pull up a really nice application and you'll land in the right place.
Amazing, amazing. And I guess throughout your journey, how did the experience of going through Crimson help you in the adventure? Was there any particular parts of our programs that you thought were more useful? Anything that particularly connected the dots for you?
I'm sure that my applications wouldn't have happened without Crimson, honestly. So as I told you, um, it was literally like 2 weeks before the deadlines to apply, and I was applying to schools in Brazil. I didn't even go to the international school, so even having like recommendation letters wasn't something as easy. And Lila helped me so much. We would sit down and write essays. There wasn't ChatGPT back then, so so it was a lot. I applied to more than 20 schools, which makes probably like 30 or 40 essays in a span of like 2 weeks. So that was a lot. And I was still like juggling finals, and I was applying to schools in Brazil, and I was managing my extracurriculars. I was still involved in sports. So it was a lot. And so nothing would have happened without Crimson. And also, like, helping me choose what I was going to talk about. I'm a very multifaceted person, so it is hard sometimes to figure out like what you're going to put in your application. So the help was invaluable, honestly. The guidance, all of that.
That's great to hear. And Lila, by the way, is a true rock star of Crimson, and a real veteran. So I'm delighted you got to work with her. She's been really inspiring students from Brazil for, gosh, nearly 10, I think 8 years now or more, at least through Crimson, and certainly more throughout her previous roles. But great to see you guys made the magic happen. And well, that's a pretty high intensity period, right? I think back to my own admissions cycle where it was coming down to crunch time. You've got to write so many essays. You're researching all these schools online. They look like they're all kind of similar-ish in some ways, and you've got to generate some really great reasons to why they're all quite different. So I'm glad you nailed the process. And then for you, any more education in your horizon? Are you thinking about maybe graduate schools down the line? Or for you, would you say, Columbia, you've hit, your education dreams and you're done with studying? Where's your attitude at with that?
This is a very complicated question because as much as I love working and transforming my potential into action and all of that, I do have the curiosity and intellectual bug. So I'm always learning, I'm always reading, I'm always doing another course. I do think about joining a master's at some point. I don't know exactly when, but I do. So we'll see.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited to see, what you think about doing next. Certainly, in my case, there was a bit of hot debate around, whether or not entrepreneurs should do MBAs. I found
Hmm.
an MBA quite useful in my case. There are many tech
Really?
entrepreneurs that, don't like them so much. But for me, I guess I was quite a young founder when I was building Crimson, and I felt going to business school and giving me some, background in like marketing and sales and strategy and product was actually very useful, and made me sort of maybe a more confident leader. But I think, different approaches work. For many of our students, they do their undergrad degree, they rock and roll, never look back. And for others, they want to pursue a lot of, graduate studies and everything. But that'll be interesting to see. And I guess, how do you see your own connection back to Brazil? Do you see yourself working in the US for many years to come? Or, will you always maintain that Brazil connection? How do you think about that playing out in your career?
So I do maintain a really strong Brazilian connection. Um, I have many friends in Brazil. My whole family lives in Brazil. I'm always going back and forth, but I mostly see myself staying in the US, at least in the long term ish, like the next 10 years. Yeah,
Gotcha, gotcha.
US.
I love how the long term is 10 years. Definitely, we know we're both young because, that's a good period. But I think, New York's also a great city to be living in at this phase in our career too. And I find it's a really great place to build companies and, really dynamic place for sure. Okay, now I guess, I wanted to ask you also about, how you think career trajectories are changing for Columbia students. So, traditionally, a lot of Columbia students were thinking about pathways into, say, law school, into government, or into finance, into banking. Any trends in sort of what your friends are doing post Columbia? Any new popular arenas that are, taking share from others? What are you seeing from your own classmates that have recently graduated with you, or the years above you?
Yeah. So I did applied math, and I have many friends who did computer science. So I feel like it's becoming trendier and trendier. And for this reason, many people are becoming software engineers, joining startups as developers as well. And this wasn't something as common beforehand, but I feel like it's becoming trendier right now. And in my case, because I did applied math, I can juggle in between finance, coding, anything that comes my way. So I feel that tech is an undeniable trend worldwide, not specifically to Colombia, but I can say from my overflowing class for 400 people taking data structures to Java. So computer science for sure.
Fascinating. And, that's really interesting you say that, especially in a school like Columbia that's really built on its, humanities foundations, core curriculum, etc. For your typical student at Columbia, do they see the core curriculum like something they're excited to do, or it's almost pulling them away from those hardcore STEM classes they want to pursue? What's the sort of role of humanities in a, ambitious environment like Columbia, and how's that changing through the eyes of your peers?
Actually, taking a step back, at Columbia, it's like an umbrella. There's Columbia um, Engineering School, and there's Barnard. I don't know about Barnard as much, but I can talk about some of the differences between Columbia College and Columbia Engineering. I actually did applied math in Columbia College, so I had a heavier workload from the core curriculum. I had more classes on humanities. So, best of both worlds, worst of both worlds, I don't know. I'm biased, I think it's best. But I do know that in the engineering school, there's like less requirements in terms of the core curriculum. You do have to take university writing, literature humanities, and some of the most stabilized classes. But I don't feel like people see it as a burden. Everyone that I talk to really, really enjoy it.
And another really cool thing about Columbia is they are able to use their position on the world stage to bring in amazing faculty. I think, if correct me if I'm wrong, but I think both Obama and also Hillary Clinton have played major roles in the faculty in recent years. I think Hillary Clinton joining most recently. What kind of role did you see some of these figures playing in the university culture and campus? Because some universities only want like pure academics, but it seems like Columbia wants to attract these world leaders in all kinds of arenas and bring them to the classroom.
This is a tough question, especially because I didn't take those classes. I do have friends who took a class with Hillary Clinton,
Wow.
and they said it was amazing. She's bright. And obviously, we don't only want academics for the sake of academics, we want something more tangible. So I feel like this is probably where this falls. Um, Colombia has shown me how to put many things that I've learned into practice. And I feel like those classes with those world leaders, be it political, be it in other scientific fields, um, do support this view.
Well, thanks so much, Nicole. I think that's very inspiring for our students. And, for many folks listening, they don't really understand much about what the campus world of Columbia is actually like. So hearing your insights about this whole universe and really seeing this Ivy League dream come to fruition is very inspiring for them. So thanks so much. And we look forward to following your adventure and seeing what mysterious thing you do next. We look forward to it.
Thank you, Jamie. Nice meeting you. Nice talking to you.
Thanks, Nicole. Cheers. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.